Hey guys, this is Scott over at theversatileguitarist.com. I have played countless right hand studies, drills, patterns, and exercises. And in this video, I want to show you what I think is the best exercise for the right hand, regardless of what style of fingerstyle guitar that you play, whether you're playing Travis picking or classical or flamenco or whatever. This, I think, is the best exercise for the right hand. So like I just mentioned, you don't have to like classical guitar or play classical guitar to benefit from this exercise. This right hand arpeggio pattern is so weird that it will help you no matter what you're doing in your right hand. But if you have played a little bit of classical before, I'm sure you've run across the name Villa-Lobos, very important in the classical guitar world. He was a Brazilian composer in the middle of the 20th century, and he wrote a lot of orchestral works for many different instruments. But what's unique about him as far as being a composer goes is he was also a classical guitarist. And many years ago, he published a collection of 12 guitar studies, which are very difficult and played to this day. What I want to show you in this video is simply the first measure of Etude number 1, the first study from that collection of 12 studies. This is one of those studies that keeps a static right hand pattern all the way through, and we move through a whole progression of chords. But for this video, we're just going to stick to the first chord. We're going to play an E minor this way with these two fingers. Now you can do it on all open strings if you want and still get the benefit of it. But what I'd like to do in this video is, if you can play this, I want to show you the first measure of Etude number 2 and see if we can combine them together. And that's why I'm holding this chord this way, as you'll see in a minute. Now this right hand arpeggio pattern seems pretty wacky at first, but there is a definite logic to it. What we're doing is starting on the 6th string, and we're just skipping strings and then going back to the string that we skipped. So we're going to play the 6th string, then we'll play the 4th string, then we'll go to the 5th, then the 3rd, then the 4th, then the 2nd. And that's the logic all the way through. We get to the 1st string, we're actually not going to skip a string there. We'll go back to the 2nd string, then the 1st string again, hop over to the 3rd string, the 2nd string, the 4th, the 3rd, the 5th, the 4th again, and then we start over at the beginning on the 6th string again. There's more than one way to play this in the right hand as far as what fingers we use, theoretically, but the best way to do it is going to be like this. We're going to use our thumb, then our index. Thumb, index, thumb, middle, index, ring. That's one half of the pattern. Middle, ring, index, middle, thumb, index, and we're done and we're back. So this is such a great exercise because it has us using all the strings. We are going to try to play it fast. We're using our ring finger, which if you play Travis picking kind of stuff, we very often just leave the ring finger out. A lot of things in this pattern that make it difficult, and that's exactly why we should play it. And keep in mind, you'll never see this pattern anywhere ever except for this study. But that's okay, because it's just a workout for our fingers to help us play anything in the right hand that we want. Let's look at this pattern again nice and slow. Now I'm going to say the letters in the right hand, P-I-M-A. Then we'll do it again, and I'll call out the string numbers that are being played. So we're starting with our thumb, then we skip a string, index. Go to the string that you skipped, thumb, skip a string, index again, the string that you just skipped again, thumb. This time, when we get to the 2nd string, play your middle finger, back to your index, let our ring finger, middle again, ring, index, middle, thumb, index, and we're back. I'm going to call out the string numbers without holding a chord down. All open strings now. 6, 4, 5, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, 5, 4, and we're done. So on the way back down, it actually looks like a different pattern, like we're not skipping strings, but we are. So here's what the pattern's going to sound like. Don't do it fast until you're comfortable with it. So you might notice that the first time you play your ring finger, we go back to our middle and then back to the ring again. That ends up being, as you get faster, maybe the toughest part right there, because it's really hard. That's a weak finger or ring finger. So weak that those Travis picking players try to avoid it at all costs. But we should work on our ring finger, and it's kind of like the more strength and dexterity and control you can get over a weak finger, your stronger fingers are going to become stronger still without even having worked on them, I think. So your ring finger plays the first string, then your middle finger on the next one. I would do just a million of these motions right here. It's so hard to get that fast. Feels kind of weird, feels bad. And those two fingers just don't like to cooperate on either hand, you may know as a guitarist. So in this study number 1 from Villa-Lobos, it's all 16th notes in 4/4 time. So we're playing an E minor chord. That's one measure. Now let's just talk about real quick the next study that he has. These are all very difficult studies if you try to play them from start to finish. We're just worried about just the beginning of the first one. And let's look at the second study in that group of 12 studies called Etude number 2, of course. We have a different kind of arpeggio. what I mean by a different kind is that we're playing not all 6 strings and we're moving around in the middle of the arpeggio, which we certainly weren't doing in the one before. But this is a great one for practicing position shifting. So what we have here is an A major chord. I'm doing a partial bar like this so that the high E string is open, hammering on my pinky. And the instant that I play this high E string, I'm going to shift position at that moment and get my middle finger up here on the 10th fret of the 2nd string, which is an A note, and we continue the arpeggio. So this is a real arpeggio in the sense of, like if you study jazz or theory or something, we're going to practice arpeggios by going root, 3rd, 5th, root, 3rd, 5th, root, 3rd, 5th, in order without interruption. If we think back to study number 1, we had an E minor chord. There was actually a note missing from that arpeggio in the true sense of hitting all of the notes in the chord. We could have had a G note in there, but we just held that chord and just arpeggiated with the right hand. So in this one, we are playing all the notes note by note of an A major chord without taking any notes out. A, C sharp, E, A, C sharp, move on E, A, C sharp, E, and when we come back down, we're gonna have a different fingering. So this is definitely harder. Notice I barred it on the way down. Jump on the high E string, get your middle finger up here. On the way back down, use your ring, middle, and index finger, and you don't have to leave them down. You can take them off as you go, and we do it again. The reason I bring this up is that it's definitely harder than Etude number 1, but if we put these two together, it really becomes a really great challenge for our right and left hand. All we're doing is playing the first measure of study number 1 and the first measure of study number 2 and going round and round. If you know anything about music theory or jazz chords, stuff like that, if we have an E minor chord, the first measure of study number 1, and then an A major chord, the first measure of study number 2, that E minor to A major is a 2-5 progression, or you could even say it sounds like the E Dorian scale. So it actually has a kind of a cool effect when you put them together. But that is your challenge once you can do study number 1. Get this other arpeggio down and see if you can put them together without stopping. It doesn't have to be fast. So we have study number 1 and number 2. So that is a great exercise putting this together. But if you don't do the second part, totally fine. You must, though, get this Villa-Lobos Etude number 1 arpeggio down. It's the best thing you can do for your right hand. Thanks for checking out my guitar videos. You can get the PDF below, and if you can, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.